Adam, good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Wow, great to be here. First of all, let me start by saying that I'd like to congratulate. I understand that Roger Trowbridge got an award, a well-deserved. I want to say overdue. It's due. At the right time was today. So congratulations, Roger, on something richly deserved. I know I know what you've done for me, certainly. Let me say something else. I sometimes forget to do this, and I'm not going to forget today. And they did not push me to do this. I want to thank Hohner Harmonicas. I have been playing a Hohner Marine Band for 46 years. I started back in the fall of '74 with the Hohner Marine Band. I still play it, and I have endorsed Hohner for many years. So I just want to say thanks to you guys. And then let me just really end the beginning by just saying I'm greatly honored to be asked to come and talk to people about comping, something that doesn't get enough attention, I think. I spent the entire week thinking about this thing. Let me share with you my what I'm going to be, the sheet I'm going to be sort of talking, not with this in mind today, which I'm calling Essential Principles of Blues Harmonica Comping. So I'm going to share a Word doc. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to very quickly go through these principles. So here we are. And what you should understand is that I'm doing this because I'm going to go a little bit free, a little bit untethered in the actual process of showing you how to work through a song and begin to hear things that will help you become a better comper. So your job, a little statement of purpose here. Your job, and understand that I'm talking about blues harmonica comping. Jazz comping might be a little bit different. So for today, I'm going to do what I know how to do, which is blues harp. Your job as accompanist, and remember, comping is sort of short for accompanying. So as accompanist is to support the singer and the song, making the duo, trio, band, and I'm in a trio, sound better than if you weren't there. It is never to show off or compete with other members of the band. With that in mind, here are some basic principles of the craft. So if I were a creative writing teacher, they have classes that are sort of craft talks or craft classes. That's what this is. That's what this is. So number one, I have a funny story, which is I had 8 elements, and I didn't have this number one. I had no other, stay out of the singer's way was number one. And I said, was anything missing? I thought, well, I'll leave 2, there should probably be 10, but I'll leave 2 empty spaces for people. And then I thought, well, the very first thing you need to do is actually know the song, right? Then you can begin to accompany. If you don't know the song, you can't begin to be a good comper. So number one, with the exclamation point, because I neglected to include it the first time around, is learn the song. Now, what does that mean? What does it effectively mean? Well, learn the harmonic structure. If we're doing 12-bar blues, you already probably know the harmonic structure, but there may be some tricky things going on relative to that. So it may be an 8-bar blues, or it may be a 12-bar blues that actually is more like a 24-bar blues, which Mustang Sally, I tend to hear it as a 24-bar blues with everything twice as long. So that's the first thing before you can comp. It's a little bit like improvising in that way. Is you need to learn the harmonic structure. That's number one. And the number of bars, obviously. Hopefully it's a 12-bar and you're in good shape. But if you can't play it if you don't know the number of bars, because you'll be flailing. You'll be improvising in the wrong way. So first learn the size of the court and where the net is, in a sense. And really crucially, for number one, any distinguishing elements. So in the case of Mustang Sally, the distinguishing element is that it seems to be kind of twice as long. And there's a few things going on which you'll see I'm going to talk about when we sort of walk up to the 5 chord, walk up to bar 9. So if you're making notes for yourself and you're working out a comp part for any individual song, one thing to do is say, what are the distinguishing elements? What distinguishes this blues or this shuffle blues from other songs, right? Other shuffle blues. Number 2, but it really could have been number 1, and it was at one point. Stay out of the singer's way. Now, as you're going to see, this is it's a principle with some fuzzy edges. It's not like never play when the singer is singing, but it's an important base principle nonetheless. And you're going to see how this works, which is to say, be listening for the singer. A good accompanist does this, right? if you were to think about it the way a pianist accompanies a jazz singer, of course they're playing the whole time, and sometimes they're tinkling, right? But they're doing what they can do to lay down a support, and sometimes they're responding to the vocal. We'll talk about that in a sec, but stay out of the singer's way is number 2. Very important, and I'm going to show you how that works. Number 3, for me, this is paramount. I think for any harmonica player, blues harp player, it's paramount. Help anchor and drive the groove. It's more important in the kind of stuff that I'm playing where I'm actually the drummer as well as the harmonica player. So I'm anchoring it as drummer, and that makes it a little easier to hear kind of where the groove is as the harp player, because it's the same guy doing both. But help anchor and drive the groove. And here, these are important principles in the parentheses. Play with purpose, care, and rhythmic insight. Don't noodle. I can't stress that enough. Play with purpose so that when you play, people feel, and here the tension is between playing with purpose and not stepping on the singer, right? A lot of these principles are sort of not too tight, not too loose, kind of somewhere in the middle. Play with purpose, play with care, be thinking about it without overthinking, and rhythmic insight, and you're going to see how that works. What we're going to find out, turns out that doubling the guitar player is what a lot of what I ended up doing in at least one of these tracks, but often actually in both of them, and that can be very important. Rhythmic insight. Where's the groove, and how can you stress certain beats so as to push things forward, to drive them forward? That's the kind of song it is. Don't noodle. That just means, well, we all know what that means. Every harmonica player knows what that means because we've all done our share of it. Number 4, leave space. You're going to see how this works in the tracks that I'm going to talk about. Leave space. That part, don't noodle. Okay, good. But you might not be noodling. You might just be playing a lot. Sometimes it pays to leave space. Sometimes you're more effective when you actually learn where the spaces are, the usable spaces. Number 5. And so again, I'm going to illustrate all these things very practically once we hit the music. So I'm going through at rapid fire so that you sort of have a sense of the things I'm going to touch, the touchstones. Number 5. Again, this is something that was not apparent to me until I went post facto and went back through what I had done live and said, that's what I was doing. That's how I came up with the part. I want you to put a star next to this or boldface it. When appropriate, sample and echo bits of melodic material from the song to create your part. I do a lot of that in Mustang Sally. What's interesting is I'm doing it not just from the song, the melody of the song, Ride, Sally, Ride, for example, but also the way that the guitar player is playing. It turns out that that's extremely important. Number 6, adjust your volume as needed. So as an accompanist, Little Walter was a master of comping this way, which is to say he might play a lot, but he'd back away from the mic a little bit when Muddy was singing, right? Sonny Terry, of course, drove Barney McGee mad because he didn't vary his volume. He tended to play. He played over. He's the exception that proves the rule. But you should never be louder than the vocalist. I think that's a good general principle. The one exception is really when you're acting like a horn line. Boom. When you're smacking on 2, for example, the way a horn might, the key thing is if you're loud in a repetitive way, like a horn line, then you're not drawing undue attention to yourself over the singer. That's the key thing. Soloing really loud, filling on top of the vocalist, you're driving attention to yourself, taking it away from the vocalist. Number 7. Well, what's the relationship between fills and comping, right? Comping and fills, because that's the way we normally think. Okay, so I'm letting the singer sing the phrase and then I'm filling. Well, so that is one way to play, and that's some of what comping may encompass, as you'll see. I do a little bit of that when I'm comping. But not always. Sometimes I'm just doing the groove thing. And so learning how to move in and out of that, to move in and out of fills, is a crucial skill that you need to think about and accrete for yourself as you comp. But it's also important to know who's doing the fills. If I happen to play in a trio where the guitar player is a rhythm guitar player, he's not really doing lead. But if you have a lead guitarist, he may be doing the fills. You don't do the fills. Number 8, warbling. I should have put warbling is always an option. In that case, you're not driving the groove, but filling space. And so one way to think about this is, you know, comp like different instruments. So you can comp like a harp player or a sax, maybe. So a lot of what I do. But you can also comp like an organ player who's doing the trill, kind of just filling space like that. That's really effective, and I do quite a bit of that, as you'll see. Number 9, when it's time, and so I only have 9, there may be a 10th, and I'm going to leave it to you guys to figure that out. When it's time to solo, because after all, if you're a comping harp player, at some point, the singer's going to turn to you and say, harmonica! What are you going to do? It turns out that there's like 5 things that I do in a solo in Mustang Sally that you can learn from. 5 ways in which I, in effect, punch it up. 5 different ways. It wasn't obvious to me until I tried to think them through. So turn up a little and or push harder, step out, and then learn how to back off. All right. So that's, I'm going to stop the share there. That's sort of the opening salvo. So I'm going to actually, I'm not looking at the, well, I'll let the chat be what it is now. So what I'd like you to do is, if you have it available, get, those principles are now over to that side. Get Mustang Sally. And I'm going to play you a little bit of it. Actually, not just a little. I'm going to play you maybe the first minute and a half, so you get a sense of it. And then we're going to talk about kind of how I move through it. So I'm going to share, but this time instead of screen, I'm going to share music. Hold on a sec. Computer audio, share. And now I'm going to hit. Now let me say something about this. So who is this? What's Sir Rod and the Blues Doctors? My ulterior motive for headlining this festival on day 1 is to share news of my new trio, which features a singer who is the nephew of Sterling McGee, Mr. Satan, my long-time, decades-long, the guitar man, singer who sort of led Satan and Adam. So Rod has joined my duo, the Blues Doctors. We're Sir Rod and the Blues Doctors. And what you're going to hear is from a concert we did this summer in Philadelphia. It was a 2-hour set for those harp players who, you know, for one-man band, 2 hours is a long time. And this is a version of Mustang Sally. It's obviously an age-old classic. I want to say one more thing. When I had to work up a part for this song, I thought about 2 things. First thing I thought about was a version I'd heard from Billy Branch and the Sons of Blues. And I've actually given your hosts a link, so you can go right to that YouTube video or just have that as a link. And when I listened to it this afternoon, it was like, yeah, I learned the very first part from that. I do exactly what he does. And then the rest of it, I don't do any of what he does. It's interesting how we can sort of move in different directions. But what he does works perfectly for the context that he's in. All right, so we're going to go to Mustang Sally, and we're going to listen a little bit.
All right, let's give them something that they know. Y'all like horses? All right, let's give them a horse song. Let's do it.
Give me a thumbs up if you can hear that.
Mustang Sally, don't you hear me when I call? Mustang Sally now, baby, don't you hear me when I call? You've been running all over town. I think it's time to put those flat feet on the ground. Audience participation, here we go. All you wanna do is ride around Sally.
They know.
Yeah! All you wanna do is ride around Miss Sally. Yeah! All you wanna do is ride.
I want to stop there. And I want to kind of work you through kind of the comping part that I evolved. Now, you already have those basic principles, and I'm sure you heard at sort of towards the end of what I just played for you, there's a place where there's a long place where there's no harmonica. I think I come in, and of course with the drums I'm going bump, bump, bump at the right time. Point is, effective comping in some songs may involve holding back. What a novel idea for a harmonica player. So let's just talk a little bit, go right back to the beginning, and what can we notice?
They know.
Just from the
Y'all like
first,
horses?
go to 9 seconds. You guys will all have this track. Now I want you to notice something right away. What I want you to do is do something that's almost impossible for a harmonica player, which I want you to forget about with the harmonica and listen to what the guitar is doing. I probably listened to the track 30 times, and I certainly played the song before it ever occurred to me that I should listen, actually really just listen to what the guitar's doing. And of course what he's doing And so one thing I would say is you could just listen to the guitar player and come up with a harmonica part that would be a little different, a little less fancy than what I ended up doing. But what you'll notice is the reason why things sound like they're grooving pretty quickly is because guitar and harmonica, it's a principle that I learned with Sterling McGee. Guitar and harmonica are hitting the same thing. And especially that's when it starts to happen in the verse. But I want you to listen again, and we'll listen straight through this opening. So what I notice is that half the time I'm actually doubling what the guitar's doing, but I'm doing it in the upper octave. So he's going, and I'm going, doing a little glissando, 1/4 draw, 2/5 draw, 3/6 blow, with the glissando down to 1/4. If you go back and listen, what you're realizing is that half the time I'm doing that, and the other half the time I'm doubling his, and the other half I'm dancing around it. It's counterpoint. There's a wonderfully, I haven't fully processed this, but it's a wonderfully important idea that as a comper, you might do that. You don't have to just double the guitar or or the bass or some other element, but you can do what I just did there. Let's go and let's see where the emphases are, the rhythmic emphases. What's my thing? Help anchor and drive the groove, rhythmic insight. Okay, there's some of that coming up.
Mustang Sally, don't you hear me when I call?
So what you might not have noticed, but now once I point it out, you'll be incapable of not hearing it, is that the guitar is going boom, bop, and he's hitting really hard on 2. 1, 2. And I am too. Now, I never, in figuring out the part, never occurred to me that I was just doubling the guitar. I was listening, I was like feeling it out. But it turns out that the reason it works is because I'm doubling the guitar and his emphasis. You may not have noticed that the first time, but listen to how crucially useful it is to hit really hard and even leave a little space and hit hard on 2.
Don't you hear me when I call?
Let's back it up a little bit. Let me back it up.
Mustang Sally, don't you hear me when I call?
So I hit it the first 2 times. And then a third time, that third time I hit the 2 draw rather than the 3/6 blow, that third time. And then I did something just intuitively, because I've played this song many times before in other contexts, where I'm echoing that "Ride, Sally, Ride" line. And that ended up becoming part of the comp thing that I elaborated for this. And there, we're changing to the 4 chord. We're on this sort of double length 12-bar blues, and I'm going to the 4 blow or the 1 blow. Also, interestingly enough, sometimes I hit it right where the guitar was hitting it, right on that 1, 2, right? In this case, I don't know if I did that. And so I'm trying to get you to sort of hear the decisions that were made. So we're still on 1.
Mustang Sally now, baby.
Time I didn't do it on 4. I didn't do it the same time as the guitar player. If a comp line doesn't seem, I mean, that worked fine, right? So the decisions we make may work, but it didn't really hit where the guitar player was.
Don't you hear me when I call?
So then what I do there at that point in the verse is I decide I'm going to throw in a warble. Now, there are different kinds of warbles. In Shake, Rattle, and Roll, I do a different kind of warble. It has a different purpose. There was just to give a little bit of fill energy. What are you? Let's just go and take a quick re-listen to what actually happened.
You've been running all over town, baby. Don't you hear me when I call?
So I used a warble as a sort of way of changing up slightly, then going back into, it's really important, repetition is important. David Barrett has a wonderful riff on this. You know, the first time you do something, nobody has any idea what's going to come next. Second time you do it, they hear it in the context of the first time you did it, and suddenly it has meaning, and it's comforting. One of the challenges as a comper is to repeat often enough that you create a comfortable space for the listener, for the singer, and to vary it enough that it doesn't just feel like you're artificial intelligence that's going to replace everything except harmonica players within about 20 years. Harmonica players will not be replaced until AI learns how to, drink and carouse and act like fiddle players. All right. So pull out another couple of lessons.
You've been running all over town. I think it's time to put those flat feet on the ground. Audience participation, here we go.
So what I would say there is learn. Remember what was line number 1? Learn the harmonic structure, the number of bars, and any distinguishing elements. So here, as a comper, I think I made a decision, and I tend in almost every chorus and verse in this song to do the same thing. I call it a walk-up. I don't know what the technical term is. And I'm hoping that most of you can hear what I'm doing. 2 draw, 3 draw. And by the way, I'm using an F harp, a really high harp. 2 draw, 3 draw, 4 blow. Back to 3, and then to 4 draw. Kind of a magic Dick. He did a lot of that stuff. Here it's just. Now notice something else. I can play circles around the harmonica, but in some cases, it's stronger, it's a better move. What did I say about playing with purpose, care, don't noodle? So there I was just contributing to the rhythmic focus on the 5 chord by hitting 4 draw and just banging it on the beat. There's 0 syncopation. And then nothing. So again, trying to sort of explain how purpose and care, what they sound like in a harmonica comping context. When appropriate, sample and echo bits of melodic material. Let's do one more little bit. I think I'm going to have to pause, and I do want to take a question or two. And I want to let's go into what comes next.
All you want to do is ride around, Sally around. Audience participation, here we go. All you want to do is ride around, Sally. They know. Yeah!
What did I do there? So what I did there is thinking very carefully about my volume. I wanted to, I hope I did, I brought my volume down, and I wanted to basically act like a member of the chorus that Rod is calling to, and kind of the harp there, I'm not quite filling, I'm acting like one more audience voice. I'm actually helping pull the audience into it, or at least that was the purpose that I was trying to fulfill. You can question it, but that's what I was trying to do, which meant I had to take the volume down. All you want to do is ride around Sally. And they're going, ride, Sally, ride, right? That's what I'm trying to do. Let's see.
You wanna do it, ride around me, Sally. Yeah! All you want.
And then, of course, what comes after that? And by the way, if I want to get a lot of rhythmic intensity, that's what I do. I'm not saying you have to do it, but I actually cough. This comes from my days as a one-man band, and maybe we'll see this in a minute when I do a little solo piece, which is, it's a really effective way of adding rhythmic intensity. You know, I want to pause. We're at half past and a couple more. Barry, Barry, who I may have called Ben earlier. I'm sorry. It's a time zone thing. Barry, do you have a question for me?
There's not any question. Oh, here we are. They've just one appeared now. Any tips about how to get that amazing blue third sound?
Thank you. Thanks for asking. Thanks for talking about that. Well, so an F harp, of course, is a little trickier. Let me show people who may not know what the questioner means by the blue third. If I go, so that's the major third, the major third. And I think of the blue third as, well, it's somewhere between a half step down and not quite a half step down. It's often, if you think about a blues guitar player, the way they play the blue third is that they play the minor third, a half step down from the major third, and then they squeeze the string. So the note they're getting is a little bit above a minor third. That's precisely where its blueness is. It is it's like taking a minor note and pushing it into the major, but not quite. And so it has a kind of bittersweet quality. How do I do? Well, the first thing is to know that it's there, I suppose, and the way I suggest that people get it. Let me go on a C harp, and I'll tell you. I do have a suggestion about how to get it. That spoon, that spoon, that spoonful. If you go and try to, in a C, it's a C harp. I've switched from the F because I think vocal range is maybe easier there. If you first begin by singing the note and knowing what it feels like to sing it, that spoonful, and get a sense of what it's like to push that note, minor third, and push it a little bit sharp of that spoonful. I have several different ways of doing it. One involves a sort of constricting. This is all lip pursing, by the way. One could do it, of course, tongue blocked. I'm not very good at that. But the first thing is to simply know that it's there and to be able to sing it. If I were going to go back to the F, that spoonful, a little high. Yeah, C's not a bad key. That spoonful, spoonful. Yeah, so I hope I've answered that. I see somebody says, can you tell us the most important lesson Mr. Satan taught you? Well, he would say, I never expected to get paid. He always was happy to get paid. And his lesson was, get paid. So But you know, as a performer, he would always talk about maybe, you know, the long history of sort of rip-offs in the music business. He would say, you know, I'm always happy to get paid. I don't expect to get paid. I almost expect to get ripped off. But he goes, it's an adjunct. It's a the recordings that we do. He was talking about the recordings. He was saying the recordings will help personal appearances. That was really important to him. You know, you want to get a hit or a song people are playing, because then people will want you to come out and play for them. So that's an important lesson. I have a quick story to tell. It's not a harmonica story, although I do have those. But it's a busking story, and you know, it's by way of saying tip the busker. That's a good thing. I've enjoyed many tips over the years. My son, who's 15, plays a number of different instruments, everything except the harmonica, everything. He shows zero interest in the harp, but I mean, he's playing my guitar. He's doing retuning and playing. I guess the Stones can't play Brown Sugar anymore, but my kid's playing Brown Sugar on my old guitar. He plays euphonium. He's gone from tuba to trombone, trumpet. He took lessons for years, and now euphonium is his sweet spot. If you don't know what looks like a small tuba basically, and it has the same range as a trombone more or less, and it has four valves like a trumpet. So it's his perfect sweet spot. And the other day, my Blues Doctors duo was playing a gig here in Oxford on a Friday, very much this sort of afternoon. And my son came along. He played some electric bass with us. He was okay on the one tune he knew. He plays bass pretty well, but he wasn't quite grooving with the Blues Doctors. And then he said, "Can I take the tip bucket and go up to the square?" Because I had brought his euphonium. So he ran up to the square with a big euphonium case. He came back 45 minutes later. He goes, "Dad," and he showed me the tip bucket. Well, he'd made far more than we'd made. He said, "Look, 20s, 10s." He goes, I stood by the by the Confederate statue. So you guys need to understand, I'm interracially married. My son is, you know, he's biracial. He's a kid. He's a Mississippi kid. So there he is with his afro. He parked himself in front of the Confederate statue, of all things, and played the marches of John Philip Sousa. And he said, "Dad, people were stopping their cars. They were getting out. They were running. They were putting bills in my..." What can you do? He came back, $75. After the next set, he goes, "Can I go up again? I want to hit the other side of the courthouse. This is our Mississippi." He came back, $45 more. He goes, "Dad, being a musician is great. It's easy money." Now, I know if you guys were allowed to laugh and project your laughs, you'd be laughing. I mean, easy money. Who thinks that? So he expects me to take him up there today. Let me play you a song, and then we'll go back and we'll work on another.
Adam, before that, a couple of questions. Do you mind taking them now? This one.
I can take them now.
This is from Edwin. He says, "You advise us not to noodle. Could you suggest something a little bit more concrete about what not to do?"
Yeah. So I would say, when I think about what noodling is, I think about it as undirected playing that's not connected with the underlying rhythm of the song. And so the best way, what I would say is the best way of avoiding noodling is to, actually, I can give you I have a harmonica story now. And it involves an F harp. A session that I did years ago with Wild Jimmy Spruill. So let me, not noodling means not playing too much, not playing aimlessly. It means, first of all, saying, where's the one? Like in funk, where's the downbeat? What am I doing? Connect what you're doing with the beat of the song. Now, you don't have to do that when you're filling. You don't always have to do that when you're filling. And certainly when there's a slow song, there may be a little more freedom vis-a-vis the beat. But I would say, if perhaps because I was in a duo that was strongly rhythmic for a long time, and now as a one-man band, as the drummer of my band, I'm thinking always in terms of keeping that groove. So tap your foot. If you're not tapping your foot, if you're not really feeling where the groove is, as a harmonica accompanist, the risk of noodling is high. Let me tell you about a session I had years ago, 1989. It's not on YouTube. Can't find it. I'm trying to find it. But I did a session where we recorded 2 songs. It was in a studio near Madison Square Garden. A very unpropitious seeming kind of situation. But in fact, the session had a woman named Grace Brimage, who was a New York blues singer that you haven't heard of. And it had Wild Jimmy Spruill, who I'd heard of. I'd met him the day before, and we'd sat in his bed and sort of worked up some arrangements. His bed up in the Bronx, the whole band. It was like the French guitar player and Grace and Rose, the girl from Bensonhurst. And when it came time to do this song, it was Blueberry Hill, I think, or I forget, it was C.C. Rider. Well, C. And the beat was C.C. Rider. So it was kind of a medium slow, like a Fats Domino. And all I did was the following. Well, that was my part. I hit a two draw hard with some vibrato and no bend on the downbeat of each bar. I'd never played that sort of thing before or since, but something inside me told me that was all that the song needed from the harmonica player, this particular song. While Jimmy Spruill, his thing was to go 4/4 right on the beat. Chunk, 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 a chunk. He was a wild soloist, but as a rhythm player, he got known for just going chunk, chunk. What I didn't expect is that when we listened back, he loved what I did. He said, "Ma," he kind of sang it like he thought it was the right part too. That was so useful to know that a guy like that, who was known for the simplicity, would have heard that and said that was the right thing. And what's interesting is you play just one note. It does, to some extent, take some of the attention, but then it didn't. It contributed. It didn't overplay. It became a memorable element of the song, but I think it also gave the singer all of the freedom she needed. So I've been told that I'm supposed to play a song or two at some point, and I thought I would do that. I'm going to sing and play one of my favorites, something I heard many years ago, that I do with the Blues Doctors and Sir Rod and the Blues Doctors. It's actually originally a Muddy Waters tune called Take You Downtown, or Go On to Main Street. Now, Muddy does it. I mean, the version I heard was... it was a little bit faster. I'm going to take you downtown. I do it in A flat, so I use a D flat harp, which is an unusual harp, but it's really, if you've never played a D flat, go and do it. Let me play you a little bit. I'm gonna take you downtown, put clothes on your back. I'm gonna take you downtown, girl, clothes on your back. Well, I love you, girl, buy you anything you like. I'm gonna take you downtown, put shoes on your feet. Well, take you downtown, girl, shoes on your feet. Well, I love you, girl, telling every man I meet. Well, bye-bye, girl, if I don't see you no more. I'm kind of editing it down. Well, bye-bye, girl, if I don't see you no more. Well, I love you, girl, I don't want to see you go. Well, I love you, girl, I don't want to see you, I don't want to see you go. All right. Little, and I'm looking at my time, and I'm thinking I have to move on and do number 2. So I didn't, it's funny how the time just goes by. I'm going to stay for any and all questions that you have, so you're going to have a tough time getting rid of me. You're going to say, fly back across the pond. Shake, rattle, and roll. If you have your sheet on shake, rattle, and roll, take a look. And actually, we can take a look before we go through it. It's fascinating. Actually, diagramming it this way was fascinating for me. I discovered something really interesting, which is basically every verse is exactly 15 seconds long. It's uncanny until the end, and I'll tell you why. Harp intro is 2 choruses, and then we get a verse, and then verse, and then verse, and then the chorus. Shake, rattle, and roll. And then chorus, and then harp solo, and then guitar solo, and then harp and guitar together. It's what probably happens, we probably slightly push the beat. I don't think you can hear it. And then the chorus, and then verse. I think that's really what's going on, is I think it probably... But there was also an edit that I did in the studio to create that harp and guitar that I did with somebody's help, and it may have cut out a tiny little bit. So anyway, we're going to switch harp now from the F to a G. So, oh wait, I want to, you know what? I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I've got you all, and I'm going to play something and see if you know what I'm doing. Let me see if I can do this. You could tell. There's a recording that's going to be issued. Tom Walbank has gotten together a bunch of great harp players to do sort of a harmonica project for people who were suffered for the most recent hurricane down in Louisiana. And I got a chance to do a song, and I thought I'm gonna take an F sharp harp and a low F sharp harp, and I'm going to do something that uses both of them. So what you heard was me, in a very bad way, sort of massacring what I did. But anyway, listen for that when the album comes out. We'll have to keep in touch. I don't have the title of it, but it will be coming out, and it is great because I've heard the whole thing. Tom Walbank, you can contact him. Anyway. So we've got a G harp, very different kind of beast than the F. It's like driving a truck as opposed to driving a Fiat 500. And so this song, I think it's self-explanatory. If I play the first 45 seconds or 3 choruses of this, I think, Barry, I don't know if I want to share music, if I need to do that again. Let me just know it's shared. Okay, so I can just share a little bit. And I have to say, you should keep music in your life that makes you happy. This song, every time I hear it, and there's a story behind this. Years ago, I did this song, Shake, Rattle, and Roll, with Sterling McGee. I probably did it on an A harp out on the street. I have a recording somewhere. It was a real up-tempo kind of thing. We decided, Sir Rod and the Blues Doctors, that we were going to do this song, and we tried to do it the Sam Cooke way, which is the way that Rod knew it. And it's a kind of medium slow shuffle. It just didn't work at all. And I was sitting there, and I just changed the beat around. Sometimes that happens. And I did a kind of jump beat where I'm actually going left with the kick and right with the tambo. Boom, boom, which is a groove that I don't do very often. It's a little faster. And I jumped it, and it worked beautifully. And we're still figuring out how to make it work, but I think you'll hear that there's something really fun here. And we need blues like this. The word fun is actually part of how Rod himself talks about the blues.
Shake it.
All right?
Let's shake it.
Shake it.
Let's rattle. Get out of that bed and wash your face and hands.
a lot to work with here, and I want to show you some of the licks. Some of you will be able to hear the licks. Some of you will go, what's he doing? What's he doing? So I want to sort of take you through, but I want to sort of, let's start with some basics. So this is a jump blues. It's not a sort of two-beat, what's the word? It's not kind of a funky blues like Mustang Sally. It's much faster. The choruses come around, so there's a lot more choruses in this. Once again, a key principle that I realized after the fact helped structure things was that the guitar and Alan and I, have been together for 9 years at this point, were really kind of swinging it the same way. We were hitting the same beats. So the basic, I'm hearing my phone inside, but I've unplugged it here. The basic riff, for those of you who want to do this at home, you can do this at home, is that. And I'm going to go left, right, left, right, left, right. So it's just 2 draw, done with a kind of syncopation. And actually, so it's hitting 1. It's hitting that James Brown said, hit on the 1, right? The 1 would be the downbeat of the first beat of the bar. I'm not going to diagram what those other notes are, just that they're not quite on the beat the same way. So that the tension between the smack on the beat, as I'd call it, and the other notes, the smack on the beat 1, or 2 draw, and then the other 2 draws. But there's something else that I'm going to add to sort of give it some emphasis. And then we'll listen to it again, and you'll say, okay, maybe, right, and you're actually duplicating what the guitar's doing. So there I'm actually rotating up to the, I'm kind of going 1-4 draw, 2-5 blow, 1-4 draw, except that at that tempo, you can't do the first 1-4 draw. And so this is a key thing. If I slowed it down to teach you, I might go. That would be this, if I were doing it at that tempo, I would do that. Can you hear what I'm doing? I'm going from a lip purse 2 draw to tongue block 1-4 draw, 2-5 blow, 1-4 draw. Okay, that's what I'm doing. At tempo, can't do it. I kind of skip over. It's a ghost 1-4 draw to hit the 2-5 blow to go back down to 1-4 draw. So that's sort of the tricky thing right there. And then I have, there's something that I've added to it that was something I did years ago that felt like it was right, which is a little fancier. And I ended up making it kind of a part of the song. And there's 2 variations. And it's a kind of walk up. So what am I doing there? I'm hitting the whole step 3 draw bend to 3 draw twice. And actually I'm coming off the 2 quickly. I'm sort of walking up, using the 4 draw to the 4 draw bend to 4 draw. And I'm kind of syncopating that blue 3rd. And of course, all local exceptions allowed. In other words, if that doesn't sound like exactly what I did, it is possible. We'll go back, we'll listen. Let's go back now that you have some sense of what I'm doing. Let's go back and just hear. So then one of the variations would be to hit the 3-6 blow instead of the 2 draw. And I'm hitting a tongue blocked. I'm mostly hitting the 6 blow, not really a full 3-6 blow. So I'm blocking 2 3/4 of the holes below. Just a little of that. It's one thing we often do when we tongue block. But that's a really important, in this kind of a song, to have. In fact, there's a riff you can do. That da da ba. It's sort of the octave equivalent of what you would do if you were doing it down below. And I realize I'm moving maybe a little too fast here, but I want to give you a sense of what I did on. So actually, there I want to say that it's really important. We talked about that on the beat thing. What did I talk about? Rhythmic purpose care and rhythmic insight. I'm going 1, 2, 3. What a great riff, right on the beat. And yet somehow, maybe because there's an upbeat from the snare, so I would have you pay attention to those small differences and trust the feeling. Trust the feeling. Oh, I see a question. How magical that is. Are the Blues Doctors planning on a tour of the UK? Sir Rod and the Blues Doctors would leap at any opportunity to get to the UK. Let me just say we really want to get over there and be with you guys. We distributed our album with all the blues DJs over there, and they seem to like it. So we're working on it. But if anybody has, hit me up on my email, asgussow@aol.com. Yes, it's pretty publicly available. If you know something, and if you know an agent, if you know a festival, please let me know. Let's listen a little bit. So this is all the opening. No vocals yet. What did I do there? So what I would say here is that I developed a secondary place to go. If I want on the sort of 5 to 4 to 1 as part of my comping. So I will repeat that in various places. Can you hear that? It's almost a little bit of sampling of juke. And that style of playing, I mean, it's a wonderful style to slow down and then speed up. It's hard to do at high speed, I find, but I do that here in the solo. Let's listen to what happens when Rod shows up. And what you'll hear, I think, is that warbling shows up. Let's see what I do. Let me cut back to the end.
Get out of that bed and wash your face and hands. Get out of that bed and wash your face and hands. Get into that kitchen, make some noise with the pots and pans.
So a bunch of things happened in that first vocal chorus. So number one is I went to the warble, and then I felt I did a little bit of warbling, and in other verses, as you'll hear when you listen to the whole track, you'll hear that I actually hold the warble longer. In this case, I was still finding my way through the song, but here's the key thing: with all of that rhythmic opening, that rhythmic energy in the opening 2 choruses, I knew that I wanted to back it off a little. That's what a good comper does, right? You back it off, give the singer some space. So I consciously made a space for him. And then I realized that suddenly I wanted to keep the rhythmic. I was almost like I didn't trust the rhythmic impetus to keep going behind him. So then I did that. What you'll notice, though, I'm going to play this exact thing again. I want you to hear this, is that I locked in with the guitar. And that with the guitar and me hitting on the same thing, it really made the song bounce. And so I can't stress enough how important it is. But here's the key thing. This is my guitar player, and I'm matching myself with what he's doing. You need to find the person. You need to figure out, or the person who's in your band or duo, and you need to hear what they're doing. Maybe that they may not be as good as Alan, as disciplined as Alan on the rhythm thing. So the one mistake you could make would be to go into your band rehearsal for Shake, Rattle, and Roll next time and play exactly what Gussow played, and it should fit, but it probably won't. What's important really is that you're hitting together with whatever your guitar player's doing. So let's just go back a little bit, and then there's a couple other things that happen in this. One of them was that the walk-up is a little fancier. I want to show you that because it is a sort of high-end lick or series of licks. So at the end of it or near the end of it is an overblow. That's a really great place to use a 5 overblow. What are the notes? And I'm hitting the 6th blow on an upbeat. I'm kind of hitting a little head of the beat to syncopate it. And I'm hitting I'm moving away from lip pursing. Right after the overblow, I'm jumping back, as is my way. And I think Jason Ritchie does this sort of thing. A lot of players who do overblows, I think, if you want the rhythm, you have to jump and do a tongue block thing. So that's tongue block, as is everything else. And what am I doing there? I'm doing 3/6 blow, glissandoing down to 1/4 draw. Hitting 1/4 draw twice. Going back to 2/5 blow to 1/4 draw. And then I'm going down to the 3 draw, 2 draw, and kind of rolling down to the 1 draw. Can we hear all that? Is that there? And I'm realizing when I look at the clock that we... Here we go.
Get out of that bed and wash your face and hands. Get out of that bed and wash your face and hands. Get into that kitchen, make some noise with the pots and pans. You wear them dresses, the sun comes shining.
So there I held the warble.
You wear them.
I held the warble, and then, compers, this is a really important principle. Repetition's important, holding the groove's important, establishing some sort of melodic material or comp material that then becomes familiar. So sort of establishing that there's a couple of moves that you're going to focus on, like the warble, for example, when the vocals come in, it struck me as like it's a good thing. It varies from the heavy rhythmic thing. But then change texture. Remember that you have that option. And I'm going to actually take you to I guess I got to go back and do the solo on Mustang Sally because I did want to show you that. So what I did was hold that blue third like a sax player might. Whoa, and there I'm suddenly acting more like I'm a guy who's filling, right? My comp part becomes calling and responding to the vocals. So the moment you have a vocalist doing his thing, listen one more time.
Get into that kitchen, make some noise with the pots and pans.
Yeah, the first vocal chorus.
You wear them dresses, the sun comes shining through. You wear them dresses, the sun comes shining through. I can't believe my eyes, all that belong to you.
There's a third variation by the first one was. The second one was. And this one here was. So, old tricks. What did I do there? That would take me the rest of this time to describe. It's just an in and out on a 4-draw bend that sort of gets released. I want to let me pause. Double guitar. Yeah, I'm thinking. And let me ask Pete or Barry.
I'm here. Officially, you've got about 10 minutes, but I think you've got the audience eating out the palm of your hands, I have to say. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad people are enjoying it. I'll tell you what I'm going to do then. Let's if I might. I said that so here's one remaining problem which I didn't actually discuss, which is number 9. When it's time to solo, so if you've established a good comp part, and if you've got a lot of rhythmic stuff, it's precise, but it's syncopated, so it's driving things along. You're not stepping on the solo, the singer, right? but you're sort of helping the singer and sort of holding things together ideally. So what's good comping? Would do some or most of those things. What then is left for you when it comes time to solo? How do you do that? If you're in a band, that's the moment at which you sort of been holding it together, and they point at you and go, "We'd like to harmonica." All right. So what do you do? How do you differentiate what you're doing there on the solo? And I'm going to show you the solo I did on Mustang Sally, because it as I thought it through, I thought, there are 5 things that characterize. If I can find this, shake, rattle, and roll. Just looking for my sheet. Yeah, the 5 things that characterize it. And I was surprised that they were all there. So I'm gonna go back to Mustang Sally, and it's a good.
All right, let's give them something that they know. Y'all like horses?
It's a bad joke. Let's see, harp solo, 243. It's a good solo, which is to say I can't play this solo again. I think I kind of got lucky and stuff.
All right, let's give them something that they know. Overtime, all bougie. Better slow that running all over town. Oh, one of these early mornings, you're gonna be wiping those weeping eyes.
I'm gonna let you hear the 24 part.
Blues doctors, give them some medicine. Oh! Now I need to hear everybody, even in the corner over here.
So what did I do? Well, I mean, I don't know what I did, but I can tell you what I did in terms of modulating from being an effective comper to stepping out front and delivering an effective solo. So one thing is volume went up. I just played harder. That's number one. But that's if you think that's all it was, then that's just the first thing. Second thing is I held notes longer in some cases. Especially that first 2 draw, there was like a long blah kind of out there. Again, my point was to try to distinguish the solo from the comping, so that anybody, and it's important, of course, in a trio. I'm playing a lot of harp all the time, and so you have to leave some space when you're doing that, right? But when it does come time to step out, if you've done that and left some space, it'll be more effective. People won't feel overwhelmed. I think that's the answer. So number 3, I played faster. Da 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 da. I did a few kind of tricky licks, right? Up. What did I do? Where's the F? Where's the F harp? That kind of stuff. Da 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 da. I'm not that good on 16th notes, but on that song I found a few licks that I could do. What else did I do? I used the upper octave. So for pretty much the whole prior comping thing, in fact, for all of the comping, I'm not on the F harp. I'm nowhere in the upper octave. But here I did, it was like, let's reach for something a little higher. That kind of stuff. So I was doing actually tongue-blocked stuff up on the upper octave. Then I used some notes that I hadn't, some notes, the 6th draw, for example, in a couple of cases, kind of tongue-blocked little licks that get the ear. Just so like 5 things: volume, hold notes longer, play faster, use the upper octave, use a different, if you will, part of the harp or a different texture. Kind of show-offy. So I would say it was sort of show-offy playing, right? And we'd been playing. That was our 4th gig in 4 days. So.
Adam, here's a relevant question. It says,
Sure.
Adam, in that solo, are you deliberately listening for the delay to emphasize?
When you say the delay, so I mean, I use an analog delay sound, but you didn't mean that, do you? Do you?
Maybe that's from Russ, actually.
Huh. So, well, it's interesting because part of my sound, which would not come through here in what I'm doing, I'm playing it acoustically here without any amplification, but I always use and have always used. Hopefully not quite as obsessively as like Pat Metheny, whose sound is so identifiable with that reverby kind of thing. But it's just I got into the habit of using about 400 milliseconds, a little less than half a second, which is a long delay. I don't set it too high on the amount, so I don't want the delay to sound louder than the original signal. So I'm actually careful about that. And then I turn the number of repetitions to a sweet spot where it sounds it opens the sound up. It's tricky to find. It varies with how much overdrive you're getting. So the amp, if it's a smaller amp and it's cranked up higher, you need a little bit less. It's taken me a while to figure it out, but if you get it right, it opens the sound up. I'm not consciously listening for that. The only time that is on Funky Thing Rides Again or Funky Thing, where I actually turn the delay quite a bit up, and there I kind of need. I'm not listening for it, but I'm listening to it in a sense, and I kind of need it for that song. I want it to be really thickened with delay. Here I wasn't even noticing the delay, which may tell you something about how addicted I am to it, perhaps.
Do you mind one more question as well?
No, I'd love it. And you know what? I think I need to play another song too. I was going to do a little Crossroads Blues. Put myself on the spot.
Your Crossroads Blues video is fantastic, by the way.
Well, I was going to try to recreate that acoustically.
Lovely. Mick asks, sounds like you are more of a lip person than a tongue blocker. Is that right?
So the truth is that I use both all the time. As somebody who, and it was my teacher, Nat Riddles, who kind of got me into tongue blocking more. I didn't really do much until I began to work with him in '85. And then, I think in '86, there was this guy I'd never heard of named Howard Levy, and it was a cassette called Harmonica Jazz. Maybe it was '87 when William Gallison showed me how to overblow, but I heard Harmonica Jazz, that cassette, which I still have somewhere. And Donna Lee, I think it was bebop, impossible things, basically. And I don't know, that was apropos of what? Tongue blocking. Okay, so as somebody who overblows but also wants to be able to play big, solid, traditional blues, I go back and forth. I use them interchangeably. I rarely bend notes while I'm tongue blocking. I do that in occasionally. I could do it there if I was doing. But normally I would do that lick. Now that may sound the same, but I'm going from a lip purse 2-draw to a tongue block 1/4, mostly 4, and back to lip purse blue 3rd. But I can alternate them. Let's see. I like the sound of so I alternated using a lip purse 3-draw and a tongue block 3-draw. And you can go back and listen to the video and say, can I hear a difference? I actually like the sound of the lip purse. I just doesn't quite work for me. And especially when you start to overblow. When you overblow, as I do on holes 4, 5, and 6, blow, get them overblows. There's a lot of licks where I'm just naturally not tongue blocking the moment you do that. If you don't overblow, then I can understand why people become full-time tongue blockers. If you do, I think it's a much trickier proposition. And when I do the high note stuff, I sometimes tongue block on Mustang Sally, for example. If you were to go back, I think a lot of the stuff I did there, that's all tongue blocked. And the one thing I will do a lot, actually, is I will tongue block 3 holes. I'll block out 3 holes and do those upper octaves. Charlie Musselwhite does that. I do that. I don't hear a lot of other, and Jason Ritchie will do that in some contexts on 3rd position, like this. Let me show you what I mean. On the D flat harp, I'll do it on a C to make it easier for anybody who comes along. So there I'm actually going back and forth between blocking 3 on the draw and blocking 2 on the blow. So how about this? Let's do, that's a nice little high note lick. Sounds great, lip pursed, but that's sort of right, you can see that's right at the edge of my technical abilities, but it's really cool, and I've done that in some things. So again, lip purse, I tongue block, I do both. Great question, though.
Mike Netherton's asked earlier, but I think I missed it, and he's asking, do you think comping is better than just trying to emulate the horn lines in this type of song?
Yeah, so, well, that raises a really interesting question. Sort of what might the source material be for working up a harmonica part for a song like this? And here I go back to the way that I was taught by my teacher, Nat Riddles. He'd give me these study tapes, and he'd have 2 or 3 different versions of something, like Watermelon Man. He might have, he actually didn't do this, but you might have Herbie Hancock's version, Mongo Santa Maria's version, and Little Walter's version, which is not very good, I think. But you can sort of hear common elements. So I think if I were going to do Shake, Rattle, and Roll, I mean, I actually don't, I'm not sure I know the Bill Haley version. And actually, it's really important to go back. Sometimes it's really important to go back and hear what people did. And of course, rock and roll in the 50s, the sax was the big thing. So you can certainly, I think Magic Dick did this, and I think he plays some sax too. You can go back and listen to the sax parts and copy sax parts. I did a lot of that. I don't know if I did it as much when it came to comping, but I think I think that's like a great place to go. It's not in the case of comping, not really where I learned how to comp, I think. And don't ask me where I learned how to comp. It's taken a long time to accumulate any kind of competency at it. I do think that you begin to learn how to do it when you actually begin to think about it as a discipline of its own. And then you begin to realize just how good Magic Dick is. So I think a lot of it probably starts from him. Go and listen to It Ain't Nothing But a House Party, and listen to the kind of stuff that he does, which I grew up on Jake Giles' band. So I think dun, 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 I could, some of the things I did in Mustang Sally, right? That kind of stuff, da 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 da, all Magic Dick. So yeah, I'm getting it from a harp player who learned it from horn players. So great question. Would you like me to try a little Crossroads Blues?
Oh, I think it'd be great, Adam. Yeah,
I had decided that I was going to try to do that. The man who recorded this years ago was a much younger and more energetic and much more crazed, I think, back in 2010. But I'll do a little bit of this without, of course, any of the echo and without the big drums and without the, as my recording engineer used to talk about, we argued, should it have 16% or 17% reverb? I mean, we were crazy mixed down, we were insane in terms of wanting to get that right for the one-man band thing. I've got none of that, but hopefully the shoe will give you a little something. And by the way, here, say a word about this part. I grew up playing harmonica and guitar, electric guitar, at the same time in my senior year of high school, and I was a big fan of Cream, and so I listened to a lot of the Live Cream Volume 2 and of course Crossroads Blues before I ever heard of Robert Johnson. So in this song, I was trying to sample some of Clapton's guitar riff from the opening, dun 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 dun, that we all know from the Live Cream, which was, I think it was from several different performances at a West Coast performance that Cream had. But anyway, that's that's all just harmonica translation of Clapton's guitar stuff. So this is at third remove from anything like Robert Johnson, but of course the intensity that he had is a part of this. crossroads, tried to flag a ride. I went down to the crossroads, tried to flag a ride. Well, no one seemed to know me, everybody passed me by. I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knee. I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knee. Well, no one seemed to know me, everybody passed me by. You can run, tell my friend Sterling McGee. You can run, tell my friend Sterling McGee. Well, hope he waves to me. Standing at the crossroads, believe I'm sinking down. Well, I'm standing at the crossroads, believe I'm sinking down. Well, I'm standing at the crossroads, believe I'm sinking down. Whew, boy. Man, well, thank you very much. I see hands slapping air.
Are you okay to another 5 minutes or so? We've already overrun. Are you happy with that, Adam?
Yeah, 5 minutes. If you don't mind me staying for 5 minutes, I'll try to answer a few more questions.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at the chat.
How much did Jimmy McGriff influence your early playing? Well, that's interesting. He didn't influence my early playing, but Hank Crawford is somebody that I cite a lot as an influence. Hank Crawford and Jimmy McGriff. And so I had probably 3 or 4 of their albums back in the mid 80s when I was really woodshedding hard. You know, any harp player who ever got better at some point went through a period. I know that Dennis Grunling did this when he transcribed like everybody's solos. He transcribed just huge amounts of stuff. And Jason, I know, I watched him in this period too, just kind of woodshed, and suddenly, you know, the guy you think is down there is like up there, and your eyes hurt, and you need sunglasses. That's sort of how I felt with those two guys. They were suddenly doing impossible things. But I remember a specific run that I did that involved sort of fast overblows that in which I copied a riff that was in one of their Hank Crawford, Jimmy McGriff, and it involved the following. This is on a C harp. So I'm starting on the 4. So it uses the 4 overblow and the 6 overblow. That's so simply copying riffs and using the discipline of playing a riff in time, sort of challenging riff in time with a record. This is all records back then, vinyl. To that extent, that sort of helped shape my style a little bit. It constantly challenged me to, well, here's a really important principle. You've got a choice. You know, you can, and by you, I mean everybody out there who says, you know, I like what this Gussow guy's doing. Maybe I want to copy something he's doing. You can copy me, or you can decide you're going to go and copy, and maybe if you're lucky, you'll get. I have a student in Delhi, in India, who can play all my stuff. He's gone through, I mean, it's ridiculous. He makes me smile. I have very few private students. I took him on because he proved that he could do stuff. And it's amazing. And he got a drum, a foot drum. I'll just say that there are people out there who do this, but I'm always clear with them. It's like, I'm going to show you what I did, and I'm going to correct a few things that you're not getting right and show you, because your ears are so good. But if you copy a Hank Crawford, for example, or a Houston person, if you copy a horn player, you can copy him as close as possible. And nobody will ever say, they'll never accuse you of stealing from somebody, right? You were just influenced by. And I used to listen to piano players, Michel Camillo, for example. I didn't know if I copied a lot of him, but I certainly got the energy from his tracks. But Hank Crawford and Houston person, here's one. Here's a lick that I got. And again, it forces you to play licks that are sax licks, not harmonica licks. Now that's the beginning of some thing that he does. Here's actually much more relevant. I ripped off. I mean, I completely copied. When I do Every Day I Have the Blues on Kick and Stomp, the opening is an unusual opening. It goes like this. And then it does something else at the end. Well, all of that until the very end, I copied note for note from Houston Person and what he does on one particular blues that I really loved. And that's what gave me a different sound, a new sound. Was that so? In that case, I'll admit I just ripped that off completely, but translated it to harmonica terms and added some stuff around the end. And it's what I do when we play that tune with Sir Rod. So, long answer to a short question. And it's 4:29 here, and it's much later for you guys.
Yeah.
Pete, I'm thinking we're probably at the end of this romance, and it's been fun.
I think so. I think just looking at the audience, you've been a huge success tonight, Adam. And I don't think we could have asked for a greater person to open our festival. It's probably a good time for a show of hands for Adam, for everyone. So I think absolutely fantastic.
That's right. You have there's hands that under the reactions you can flap something that looks artificial, but I see what you guys are doing. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed your time with us. And
I absolutely have,
on a personal note, it's been a real pleasure to get to know you over the last few weeks. So I've really enjoyed your company, Adam.
Thanks, Pete. Well, likewise. And I learned a few things about piloting that I didn't know.